Hey, what's up guys? This is Forced Recon Logic, and today I tell you which one is better, the iPad mini or the Google Nexus 7. So let's get straight into it, starting with the specifications. When you take a look at the iPad mini, we see that it's running the Apple A5X processor, as well as 512 megabytes of RAM and 16 gigabytes of internal storage. When we head over to the Google Nexus 7, we can see that the Google Nexus 7 is using the NVIDIA Tegra 3 quad-core processor, as well as 1 gigabyte of RAM and 16 gigabytes of internal storage as well. When we ran the Geekbench test, we could see a clear landslide victory for the Google Nexus 7, beating the iPad mini by almost double the score. So this is quite surprising, seeing as there is a $130 price difference between the two, yet the Google Nexus 7 still manages to have better internals than the iPad mini. So I guess that's 1 point to the Nexus and 0 points to the iPad mini so far. Now moving on to the battery life. There's not really much debate on the side of battery life, seeing as both tablets are pretty much the same size. They both have a 10-hour battery lifespan. So just to be fair, we'll give one to the iPad and one to the Nexus. So that brings us to 2 Nexus, 1 iPad mini. Now comes the display. The Google Nexus 7 has a 7-inch display, which is smaller than the iPad mini. But the Google Nexus 7's display is 1280 by 800, while on the other hand, the iPad has a 7.9-inch display and a resolution of 1024 by 768. So now I guess we're gonna have to give this one to the Nexus. So that's 3 Nexus, 1 iPad. We then take a look at the camera, and we see that the Google Nexus 7 has a 1.2 megapixel camera capable of shooting in 720p. And this is also the same for the iPad's mini FaceTime camera, but the iPad mini also has another camera called the iSight camera. The iSight camera is exactly 5 megapixels and is capable of shooting in 1080p HD. I guess we're gonna have to give this one to the iPad, so that brings us to Nexus 3, iPad 2. Now aside from the specs, let's head over to the features. Let's begin with the Google Nexus 7. The Nexus has quite an interesting feature called Face Unlock, which basically allows you to blink and unlock your phone and unlock your Google Nexus device by just blinking. The Nexus also has its own solution to Siri called Voice Search. Voice Search works a lot like Siri, and some might argue that it even works better, but that's yet to be tested. You can see it demonstrated here.
Google, where's the closest sushi restaurant?
Getting directions.
The Nexus also has the notification pull-down that we saw in the iOS 6 release, but they've added their own twist to it. You can pinch and minimize the notifications. You can also swipe them and delete them away. So that's pretty much it for the Nexus. Now let's take a look at the iPad mini. Not much has changed on the iPad mini in terms of features. It still has the basic iOS features like any other devices, but it now has a lightning port on the bottom. So it's clear on the feature side the iPad mini is kind of lacking, so I guess we're gonna have to give this point to the Google Nexus 7. So now that brings us to Google Nexus 4, iPad 2. Now let's move on to the final test, which is of course applications. It's quite evident that the Nexus is lacking in the app department, seeing as it does use the Google Play Store, which really isn't as good as the iPad App Store. The iPad mini has an abundance of iPad apps, seeming as its screen resolution has been able to adapt from the iPad 2, so the experience shouldn't really change from that of the iPad 2. But in my opinion, I think we're gonna have to give this one to the iPad mini. So that brings us to the final tally of Nexus 4, iPad mini 3. So in my opinion, the Nexus 7 is a clear winner, seeming as this would be a break from the usual usual break from the iOS 6 that we're all quite used to. And it also does really beat the iPad mini in performance. And before I leave, I just want to remind you guys that the new website is up now. You can have a forum and everything. And I'll see you next video, guys.